Grounding exercises will help children and youth regulate, bringing them back into the here and now from the distressing effects of trauma. Grounding exercises are short, simple techniques that focus attention and distract from intense emotions. They often involve focusing on environmental stimuli or pleasant, calming objects or topics. They can usually be done with minimal equipment, such as a pen and paper, or nothing at all, except one's thoughts and imaginations. Therefore, they are versatile exercises that can be performed anywhere. People with trauma will, from time to time, experience high stress or emotional overload. This is true for people with acute trauma, complex trauma, even traumatic grief. The goal is not to eradicate feelings of intense anxiety, sadness, or anger. Instead, we want them to learn how to respond to these emotions in the moment. Grounding exercise number 1 is called item listing, sometimes known as the ice cream flavors technique. In this exercise, you will choose a pleasant category, such as flavors of ice cream, dog breeds, candy bar brands, makes and models of cars, etc. The category should be open, should not have a fixed number of correct responses, such as state capitals, something you enjoy or feel warmly toward, and something you know fairly well or know many entries for. To complete this grounding exercise, find a quiet space if possible. Set aside a period of 2 to 5 minutes. You may want to set a timer. Select a category, ice cream flavors, dog breeds. And during that time period, list as many entries as possible. Write the category entries on a piece of paper or say them aloud. List category members continuously, but without rushing yourself until the time is up. Let's try the ice cream flavors example now. Set a timer for 2 minutes, grab a pencil and paper, and write down as many ice cream flavors as you can. Grounding exercise number 2 is a 5-4-3-2-1 game. It is useful for anxiety and panic attacks, disassociation and trauma flashbacks, and extreme sadness and loneliness. On a piece of paper, write down 5 things you can see in the room with you, 4 things you can feel, like the chair on my back or the feet on the floor, 3 things you can hear right now, like fingers tapping on the keyboard or the television, 2 things you can smell right now, or 2 things you like the smell of, and 1 good thing about yourself. An example of the 5-4-3-2-1 game is 5 things I see would be the sun shining through the window, my desk, my bed, my hands on the table, or my cat. 4 things I feel could be the cool air of a fan on my skin, my feet on the floor, the back of my chair pushing into my back, my stomach grumbling. 3 things I hear, music on my phone, an airplane flying overhead, or my own breathing. 2 things I smell, my coffee, a vanilla candle. 1 thing I like about myself, my sense of humor. Tips for playing the 5-4-3-2-1 game are: complete the steps in order from 5 to 1. For each number, take a moment to observe your surroundings. This will redirect attention away from the distressing emotions and into the present. This is also a very useful technique for test anxiety and can be done on the margins of a page. If your surroundings are unpleasant, try writing down sights, sounds, smells, etc. that you enjoy instead. Let's try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 game now. Grounding exercise number 3 is called task visualization. You simply describe an everyday activity in great detail. This should be an activity you know very well how to do. Take every step of the activity and break it down into its smallest parts. For example, describe a meal that you cook. For example, first I peel the potatoes and then I cut them into squares. Then I fill the pot with water. I put the water on the stove and turn it on. I set the stove to number 3 for moderate heat, and so on. This technique can be done on paper or verbally. You can even record yourself explaining the procedure if that will help you focus. It is also a useful method for calming down another distressed person. Simply ask them to walk you through a procedure they know well. You can ask clarifying questions to help keep them focused. Let's try a task visualization. Try describing in specific small steps one of the following: your morning routine, a meal you love to cook, how you clean the kitchen or bathroom, a craft or repair project you know how to complete. Go ahead and give it a shot. The fourth grounding exercise is called the method of Loki. Loki being a word for places. It was invented by the ancient Greeks as a means of memorizing details by visualizing moving through a familiar place in your memory, like a house. You store facts and information in the rooms of this house, placing them in key locations. You can use this as a grounding exercise for mentally moving room to room and remembering in as much detail as possible the layout, furniture, and objects. The bonus of this exercise is that you can do it anywhere, but it is a mental activity. Simply close your eyes and imagine yourself walking through a familiar space. Try to envision small details you remember about the place. Imagine what things feel like, smell like, look like, etc. This exercise is also useful when done with a client or a friend by having them talk you through each room and speaking out loud about what you see there. An alternate variation of the method of Loki involves drawing a floor plan of the space. Take a large sheet of paper and a pencil and try to draw a bird's eye view of the floor plan. Include doors, room layout, large furniture, and other details in the drawing. This method may only be useful for very visual learners and people who feel comfortable drawing and being creative. Neuroscientists have found that users of the method of Loki showed increased activation in the cortex and hippocampus. These areas of the brain are involved in spatial awareness tasks. Further research on the method of Loki demonstrated improvement in brain connectivity and memorization skills, increasing the utilization of the prefrontal area of the brain. Coincidentally, all of these areas of the brain are dramatically impacted by trauma. As we have already mentioned in other trauma toolbox trainings, toxic stress impairs the brain and nervous system. Use of grounding exercise, like the method of Loki, may help to restore brain functioning. Grounding exercise number 5 is called the 5 senses technique. This technique encourages sensory awareness and promotes positive thinking. It involves reflecting on sensory experiences that you find pleasant, calming, or nostalgic. And it should be completed with pen and paper, if possible, though you can also count off the 5 senses on your hand. Let's practice. Take a pencil and paper and trace the outline of your hand with your fingers spread. Inside each finger, write the name of one sense: touch, taste, smell, sight, sound, assigning one finger to each of the 5 senses. Above each finger, write a pleasant sensation associated with that sense. For example, for sight, you might write a sunset on the lake. For touch, you might write my fuzzy blue blanket or wet sand under my feet. Each response should involve something special and safe, representing each of the 5 senses. Think about and imagine that sensation as best as you can. You may wish to organize each of your responses around a particular setting or theme. For example, senses from Christmas, senses from the beach, but this is not required. The more personal, evocative the sensory experiences are, the better. If you do not have a pen and paper handy, hold out your dominant hand and count each of the sensations for each finger. It's always best to have multiple grounding techniques in your toolbox. What works best in one stressful situation, a trauma flashback for example, might not work best in another, such as prior to a job interview. A technique that you use frequently may become less effective over time. It's best to use a variety of techniques to avoid becoming acclimated to them. Some grounding exercises may not be a good fit for your temperament. For example, some people find that the ice cream technique is frustrating because they get stuck and can't remember any additional flavor examples. Other people find the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 game unhelpful because it can draw attention towards unpleasant feelings or sights in their environment. For each technique, there are modifications to help expand their usefulness, but some techniques might just not be right for you. It is hard to remember to use exercises when you are already activated and stressed. They must be placed into your mental toolbox prior to needing them. Try keeping a notebook with you that has the task already written out for you or in a fill-in-the-blank workbook style. Or keep a card with techniques written on them in your wallet, purse, or pocket. With practice, you'll develop the habit of utilizing these techniques when distress arises.